Ever wondered why the richest people in the world seemingly own nothing? Intriguing, isn't it? Well, get ready to delve into the enigmatic world of wealth and ownership. In reality, the paradox of the wealthiest people owning the least isn't as complex as it seems. It's all about understanding the subtle nuances of wealth management and financial strategies. The wealthiest individuals in the world have mastered the art of navigating these strategies to their advantage, leaving most of us puzzled and intrigued. It's time we unravel these secrets, breaking down the hidden dynamics of wealth and ownership. You see, the concept of ownership, as we understand it, is a bit of an illusion. The wealthy have reframed this concept entirely. Their focus isn't on possessing assets, but rather controlling them. This method not only allows them to manage their wealth more effectively, but also provides a shield against financial risks. Wealth isn't just about the accumulation of material possessions or an impressive bank balance. It's about the ability to control resources, influence decisions, and shape outcomes. It's about constructing a financial fortress that not only preserves wealth, but also multiplies it. Now, you might be wondering how this all works. How do the wealthiest manage to own nothing but control everything? The answer lies in understanding the complex web of trusts, foundations, and corporations that are often used as vehicles for wealth management. But it's not all rosy. There are risks and considerations involved. It's a high-stakes game that requires careful planning, strategic thinking, and a deep understanding of the financial landscape. Over the course of this video, we'll walk you through the intricate maze of wealth and ownership. We'll decode the strategies of the wealthiest and help you understand how they leverage their wealth without technically owning anything. You may be surprised by what you're about to learn. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Your support means the world to us. We often equate wealth with ownership, but the reality is far more complex. When we think of wealth, our minds often dart to images of grand mansions, shiny sports cars, and overflowing bank accounts. It's a familiar narrative that paints wealth as the accumulation of things. This, however, is a simplistic and somewhat outdated view of wealth. Indeed, the conventional understanding of wealth and ownership is deeply rooted in material possession. We tend to believe that the more things we own, the wealthier we are. It's an equation that seems to make sense on the surface. You buy a house, and suddenly you're a homeowner. You buy shares in a company, and voila, you're an investor. But in the modern world of finance and wealth management, things aren't always as they seem. Enter the concept of asset protection. This is where the line between wealth and ownership begins to blur. Asset protection is about safeguarding one's wealth, not necessarily through direct ownership, but by strategically placing assets in structures that provide legal protection. This might sound like a fancy way of hiding money, but it's not. It's about protecting your wealth from potential threats such as lawsuits, creditors, bankruptcy, and even divorce settlements. In the realm of the wealthy, asset protection takes on a whole new dimension. The wealthy do own things, but not always in the traditional sense. They may not own their assets directly, but they control them. They use legal entities like trusts, corporations, and foundations to hold their wealth. This way, they can enjoy the benefits of their assets without bearing the risks and responsibilities of direct ownership. Now, this doesn't mean that the wealthy don't own anything outright. They do. But the key is that they are selective about what they own and mindful about how they own it. For instance, they might own their personal residence outright, but hold their investment properties in a limited liability company. This way, if a tenant sues them, their personal assets are shielded from the lawsuit. It's a game of chess, not checkers. It's about making strategic moves that protect your wealth and ensure its growth over time. It's about understanding that wealth is not just about accumulation, but preservation and growth. So let's rethink our definition of wealth. Let's move beyond the notion that wealth is about owning things and instead understand it as the ability to control and protect assets. Let's redefine wealth as the capacity to generate income, create opportunities, and ultimately shape our financial destiny. As you can see, wealth isn't just about owning things. It's about smart management of assets. Now let's delve into the art of owning nothing, a strategy mastered by the world's wealthiest individuals. You might be wondering, how does someone who seemingly has everything in fact own nothing? Well, it's all about control. Wealthy individuals don't necessarily own their assets. Instead, they control them. It's a subtle but crucial distinction. When we talk about ownership, it's often in relation to physical items such as houses, cars, or even jewelry. But when it comes to the wealthy, we're looking at a different ballgame. These individuals use legal structures like corporations, trusts, and foundations to hold their assets. This might sound like a complex strategy, but the concept is rather simple. Let's take corporations as an example. Imagine you're a successful business mogul who owns a chain of hotels. Instead of owning these hotels outright, you would have each hotel owned by a separate corporation. You don't own these corporations, but you control them. The corporations are separate legal entities and they own the assets, not you. Why do this, you might ask? One reason is legal protection. If a lawsuit is filed against one hotel, only the assets of that specific corporation are at risk. Your other assets, held by other corporations, are safe. This is known as asset protection, and it's a key reason why the wealthy own nothing, to protect what they have. Next, we have trusts and foundations, a favorite tool among the affluent. These are legal entities that hold assets on behalf of a third party. The third party could be a person, a group of people, or even a cause. The assets in a trust or foundation are not owned by the individual who set it up. They are owned by the trust or foundation and controlled by its trustees. The wealthy use trusts and foundations for a variety of reasons. They provide privacy, as the details of a trust or foundation are often not public information. They also offer tax benefits. In many jurisdictions, trusts and foundations are taxed differently than individuals, often at a lower rate. So you see, the art of owning nothing is not about having no assets. It's about having your assets held by legal entities that you control. This strategy provides the wealthy with legal protection, privacy, and tax benefits. In a nutshell, the art of owning nothing is the art of control. It's about using legal structures to control assets without owning them directly. It's about protecting those assets from legal threats and maximizing their value through tax strategies. It's about privacy and discretion. So the wealthiest people don't own their assets, they control them. It's a subtle but crucial distinction. This is the art of owning nothing, a secret strategy of the world's wealthiest individuals. Control, not ownership, is the true power behind wealth. But how does this work? Let's dive into the concept of control over assets, a strategy that many of the world's wealthiest individuals employ. You see, wealth isn't necessarily about how many things you own, but how much influence you have over those things. This can be achieved by having control over assets rather than outright ownership. Imagine the game of chess. It's not about how many pieces you have on the board, but rather how well you control them. The same principle applies to wealth. The real power lies in control, not accumulation. Take, for example, some of the world's wealthiest individuals, like Warren Buffett or Bill Gates. They don't technically own their wealth, not in the traditional sense. Instead, they have control over vast resources and assets through various companies, foundations, and trusts. This setup provides them with flexibility and protection. With control, they can direct how these assets are used, invested, and managed. They can make strategic decisions that increase the value of these assets, leading to wealth growth. At the same time, they also have a protective shield, as these assets are not directly tied to their personal fortunes. If a lawsuit or a financial crisis were to occur, their personal wealth would be insulated. So how does one gain control without ownership? Well, it's about strategic structuring. It involves setting up corporations, trusts, and foundations. These entities become the owners of the assets, while the individual retains the power to control and manage them. Picture it as a puppeteer controlling the puppets. The puppets may belong to the puppet theater company, but it's the puppeteer who brings them to life, controls their movements, and ultimately determines the show's success. This strategy isn't limited to billionaires. It's employed by successful business owners and investors worldwide. They understand that control provides them with the flexibility to adapt to changing economic conditions and the protection to weather financial storms. Now, let's take a moment to clarify a common misconception. This is not about dodging responsibilities or breaking the law. It's about intelligent and legal financial structuring that allows for wealth preservation and growth. It's about using the tools and strategies available to maximize control and minimize risk. In conclusion, the secret to wealth lies in control, not ownership. It's about having the power to direct, protect, and grow assets rather than merely accumulating them. By placing the emphasis on control, the wealthy can navigate the volatile sea of finance with a sturdy ship and a firm hand on the tiller. By focusing on control rather than ownership, these individuals can protect their wealth and ensure its growth. It's not about what you own, but what you control. And that, my friends, is the true power behind wealth. Trusts and foundations play a critical role in this strategy. Let's break down how they function. Imagine a trust as a sort of legal container. It's like a box where you can place assets like properties, stocks, or cash. When you put these assets into the trust, technically, you no longer own them. Instead, the trust does. However, you can still control and benefit from these assets. How so? Let's dive a little deeper. Trusts are managed by trustees who are bound by law to act in the best interests of the beneficiaries, the people who benefit from the trust. The trustees could be individuals or companies, and they could also be the people who set up the trust. This structure provides a level of control over the assets without direct ownership. This way, the wealth is protected, but the control remains with the person who set up the trust. Now, let's move on to foundations. Think of a foundation as a legal entity, similar to a company, but set up for a specific purpose, such as philanthropy or asset protection. The assets in a foundation are owned by the foundation itself, not by the individuals who established it or the beneficiaries. Yet, similar to trusts, the founders can still exert influence over the assets. Foundations are typically used for charitable purposes. However, they can also be used as a tool for wealth management. The assets placed into a foundation are protected from personal creditors and can be distributed according to the founder's wishes. This means that the founder can guide how the assets are used, even though they don't personally own them. Both trusts and foundations provide a legal framework for managing and protecting assets without direct ownership. They allow for control and influence over wealth without the risks and liabilities that come with personal ownership. They offer a level of privacy, as the details of the trust or foundation can often be kept confidential. But it's not all about control. Trusts and foundations also offer a level of legacy planning, allowing wealth to be passed down generations in a structured and tax-efficient way. They can be set up to provide for loved ones, support charitable causes, or protect assets from unforeseen circumstances. So, while it might seem counterintuitive, the concept of owning nothing but controlling everything is a well-established strategy for managing wealth. It's about using legal structures to protect assets, maintain privacy, and guide how wealth is used and passed on. In essence, trusts and foundations are not just about the present. They're about shaping the future, ensuring that wealth can be preserved and used in a way that aligns with an individual's values and wishes. Trusts and foundations are powerful tools that allow the wealthy to maintain control while distancing themselves from direct ownership. One of the most significant advantages of this strategy is tax benefits. Let's explore this further. When it comes to wealth management, the wealthiest individuals often leverage corporations, trusts, and foundations to control their assets. This approach is not just about maintaining control. It's also about reaping considerable tax benefits. To understand this, consider the difference between owning an asset outright and controlling it through a corporation. When you own an asset, any income it generates is subject to personal income tax rates, which can be quite high. However, corporations often pay lower tax rates on their income. By placing an asset in a corporation, the wealthy individual can reduce their overall tax liability. Trusts and foundations offer similar benefits. These entities are separate from the individual, meaning they pay taxes at their own rates, often lower than personal rates. Furthermore, when assets are held in trusts and foundations, they can often avoid estate or inheritance taxes, keeping more wealth within the family. But it's essential to clarify something here. What we're discussing is tax avoidance, not tax evasion. The two might sound similar, but they're quite different. Tax evasion is a criminal activity. It involves breaking the law to avoid paying taxes. On the other hand, tax avoidance is perfectly legal. It's about using the tax code to your advantage, minimizing your tax liability within the bounds of the law. The tax code is complex, filled with various deductions, credits, and exemptions. It's designed that way to encourage certain behaviors and discourage others. For example, the government might offer tax breaks for businesses that invest in renewable energy to promote sustainability. The wealthiest individuals with their teams of tax advisors and lawyers are often best positioned to take advantage of these provisions. They can structure their affairs to minimize their tax liability, all while staying within the law. This doesn't mean that only the wealthy can benefit from these strategies. Many of these tax benefits are available to everyone. It's just a matter of knowing how to use them. That's why it's crucial to understand the tax code and seek professional advice when needed. Remember, the goal is not to pay less tax than you owe. The goal is to arrange your affairs so that you owe less tax. It's about working within the system, using the rules to your advantage. So, as we discuss the strategy of owning nothing, it's important to understand that this isn't about dodging taxes. It's about managing your assets in the most efficient way possible, reducing your tax liability and preserving your wealth. As you can see, this strategy isn't about cheating the system. It's about using the system to its fullest potential. This strategy isn't without risks and considerations. It's important to understand these before employing similar tactics. Let's delve into the potential hazards and ethical considerations that come with the art of owning nothing. It might seem like an alluring strategy at first glance, but like all financial tactics, it carries its own set of risks that need to be carefully evaluated. Firstly, the risk of legal complications cannot be overstated. The law is a fickle friend. It's always evolving, frequently complex, and varies significantly from one jurisdiction to another. A strategy that's legal and effective today might not be so tomorrow. Therefore, it's crucial to stay updated and compliant with the laws of the land you're operating in. Ignorance of the law, as the saying goes, excuses no one. Secondly, there's the risk of losing control. When we talk about owning nothing, we're essentially talking about transferring ownership to entities like trusts or corporations. While this does give you a certain level of control, it's not the same as direct ownership. There's always the risk, however small, that the entities holding your assets might not act in your best interest. Next, we have to consider the ethical implications. While the strategy of owning nothing isn't illegal, it does raise some moral questions. Is it fair to use such tactics to reduce tax liabilities? Is it right to hold assets in a way that shields them from potential creditors? These are questions that each person must answer for themselves based on their personal values and beliefs. Another important consideration is the cost. Establishing and maintaining trusts, corporations, and other such entities can be an expensive affair. The fees for legal and financial advice, the cost of setting up these structures, and their ongoing management fees can all add up. It's important to weigh these costs against the potential benefits to determine if this strategy is truly cost-effective for you. Lastly, let's not forget the risk of reputational damage. In today's world of social media and instant news, a perceived lack of financial transparency can lead to public backlash. The court of public opinion can be a tough one to face, and its verdict can have serious implications for both your personal and professional life. So, before jumping on the bandwagon of owning nothing, it's essential to have a clear understanding of these risks and considerations. It's vital to seek good legal and financial advice to navigate these complexities and ensure your actions are legal, ethical, and in line with your long-term financial goals. Remember, It's not about hiding wealth. It's about protecting and growing it responsibly. We've covered a lot of ground today. Let's recap what we've learned. We began our journey by unveiling some of the secrets of the wealthy. We learned that the wealthiest people often own nothing but control everything. This seemingly paradoxical concept is rooted in a deep understanding of wealth and ownership. Owning assets exposes them to risk, while controlling them provides the benefits without the liabilities. We then dove into the art of owning nothing. This is not about living a minimalist lifestyle, but about protecting assets and minimizing liabilities. The wealthy use a variety of strategies to achieve this, such as putting assets in the names of trusts, foundations, and corporations. This allows them to benefit from the assets without being directly tied to them. The power of control is a key principle in the playbook of the wealthy. Control gives you the ability to direct the use of an asset, even if you don't legally own it. It's like being the puppet master, pulling the strings behind the scenes. The wealthy understand that it's not about having your name on a piece of paper, it's about having the power to influence outcomes. Next, we explored the role of trusts and foundations. These legal structures are often used by the wealthy as tools for managing and protecting assets. They offer significant advantages, including tax benefits and protection from creditors. Speaking of tax benefits, we discussed how strategic asset management can lead to significant tax savings. The wealthy often use these strategies to minimize their tax liabilities and maximize their wealth. Finally, we touched on some of the risks and considerations involved in these strategies. While they offer many advantages, they also come with their own set of challenges and complexities. It's important to have a clear understanding of these factors before implementing these strategies. Wealth is not just about what you own, but how you control and protect it. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe for more insights into the secrets of the wealthy.